The streets of the city glowed with neon lights reflecting off wet pavement. Snow drifted lazily through the air, though it bit cold against the skin. It was the kind of night where people hurried home with their collars up, clutching shopping bags and muttering about the weather. No one had time to stop, no one had time to notice, except perhaps if something forced their gaze. On the corner, near a buzzing lamppost, stood an old woman. She looked misplaced, like a delicate painting dropped in the middle of a busy street. Her coat was too thin for the storm, her scarf barely wrapped, and her hair, pure silver, caught flakes of snow. She clutched a small leather handbag to her chest, her knuckles pale with the grip. She stared one way, then the other, as though the streets had turned into a maze. Her lips parted slightly. Once, she whispered something, perhaps an address, perhaps a plea, but the words were swallowed by the noise of traffic and voices rushing past. One woman glanced at her, frowned, and shook her head. A man passed by, muttering under his breath, "Crazy old bat." A group of teenagers laughed and skipped around her like she was invisible. Dozens of eyes landed on her, but none saw her. And so, Eleanor Whitmore, though no one knew her name, stood alone, lost, frightened, and ignored. Darius Carter had seen enough of life to know how cruel people could be. At 17, he carried himself with the weariness of someone much older. His sneakers were frayed, his hoodie smelled faintly of dish soap from his grocery store job, and his backpack sagged with textbooks he barely had time to study because of work. He had dreams. He wanted to study architecture, to design buildings that touched the sky, but reality didn't allow much dreaming. Rent had to be paid, his little sister had to eat, and his mother needed help. So, Darius had learned to walk fast, to keep his head down, and to fight for every little inch of progress. That night, he left the grocery store with tired legs and an emptier stomach. He had skipped dinner again, saving what little cash he earned for the electric bill. His breath puffed white in the air as he walked. That's when he noticed her. The old woman. Standing in the snow. Alone. At first, he thought maybe she was waiting for someone. But as he slowed, he noticed her eyes, confused, darting like a child's. He noticed her hands, trembling around that handbag. And then he heard it, "Please, someone." The word was so faint, so desperate, it was like a knife. He stopped walking. He could have kept going, should have kept going. He had his own problems. But he couldn't. "Ma'am," Darius said, approaching slowly, his voice careful but warm. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" Her eyes turned to him, cloudy but soft. She blinked several times, and then, as though making the biggest decision of her life, she lifted her trembling hand toward him. And he did the one thing nobody else had done, he took it. Her hand was ice cold, fragile like paper. She looked at him with tears welling in her eyes. I don't know where I am. I can't remember." Darius gave her a small smile. "That's all right. You don't have to. I'm here now. You're not alone." For the first time in hours, maybe longer, Eleanor Whitmore felt safe. They sat together on a bench, the snow dusting their shoulders. Darius asked gentle questions. "Do you know your name? Do you have family nearby?" "My name is Eleanor," she whispered, then hesitated. "At least. I think so. My home, it's big, but I don't know where it is anymore." She shook her head in frustration. "It's all so confusing." Darius thought of his grandmother, who sometimes forgot what day it was. His heart ached. "That's okay, Eleanor. Don't push yourself. We'll figure this out. He left her for a moment, just long enough to buy her hot chocolate from a corner cafe. It cost him the last of his change, but it was worth it to see her hands steady as they curled around the warm cup. She sipped, and her eyes softened. "You're very kind," she said. He shrugged. "You needed someone. That's all." Eventually, Darius called the police. When an officer arrived, Eleanor clung to Darius's arm, trembling. "Not them," she whispered. "I don't trust them. Only you." So, Darius stayed. At the station, he refused to leave her side, even when he was tired, even when his stomach growled. He held her hand while she drifted in and out of uneasy sleep, her head resting on his shoulder like a child afraid of the dark. The hours dragged. Most kids his age would have left. But Darius knew too well what it felt like to be abandoned. And so he stayed. Morning sunlight spilled through the frosted windows when a sleek black car screeched to a halt outside. A tall man in a tailored suit stormed into the station, his face pale with worry. "Mother!" he cried. Eleanor's eyes lit up. "Daniel," she breathed. The man embraced her tightly, relief flooding his face. Then he turned to Darius, noticing the boy's tired eyes, the hoodie damp from snow, the steady hands still holding his mother's. "Did you stay with her all night?" the man asked. "Yes, sir," Darius said quietly. "I didn't want her to be alone." The man blinked, his jaw tightening. "Do you know who this is?" Darius shook his head. The man let out a small laugh of disbelief. "This is Eleanor Whitmore. She's my mother. And she's a billionaire." At first, Darius thought it was a joke. A billionaire? The woman who sipped hot chocolate with shaking hands, who leaned on him for comfort. But then Eleanor herself nodded. "He's telling the truth. But what matters is that you saw me, not my money, not my name. Just me." The Whitmore family insisted on thanking Darius. News stations covered the story, teen rescues lost billionaire in the snow. But Eleanor refused to let the headlines cheapen the truth. "This boy," she told reporters, her frail hand resting on Darius's, "gave me what money cannot buy, kindness, patience, dignity." When the whole world walked by, he stopped. Eleanor kept her promise. She funded Darius's education, ensured his mother had stable work, and guaranteed his little sister's future. But more than that, she gave Darius something he had never had before, family. She invited him into her home, treated him like a grandson, listened to his dreams, and gave him the tools to build them. Months later, at a charity gala, Eleanor spoke before a crowd of powerful people. She looked frail in her gown, but her voice was strong. Beside her stood Darius, tall and proud. "Do you know what the richest moment of my life was?" she asked the audience. "It wasn't signing a business deal. It wasn't buying a mansion. It was a winter night when I was lost, and a boy, tired, poor, and overlooked, took my hand when nobody else would." She squeezed Darius's hand. "Kindness," she said, her voice breaking, "is worth more than all the money in the world. And those who give it freely are richer than billionaires." The crowd fell silent, many with tears in their eyes. And in that moment, Darius understood, his one small choice to stop, to care, had changed both their lives forever. So remember this, the world is full of people rushing by, too busy to see. But the greatest stories, the ones that truly change lives, begin when someone decides to stop, when someone reaches out a hand. Would you have walked by that night? Or would you have stopped, like Darius?